I can say that I felt it keenly in-game. Like the Canary in the Coal Mine, something's wrong. Endwalker has been a breathtaking expansion with twists and turns in its story that honestly caught me off guard and had touching moments that genuinely brought me to tears. It will be a storyline that I carry with me for a very, very long time. But, and it's a massive Nicki Minaj size but, Endwalker's content after patch 6.0 from 6.1 onwards has been concerning from a content longevity and incentives perspective. Numbers were just released from the Lucky Banjo census, which has been a long-running census for Final Fantasy XIV for years and years and years, which has showcased the player base activity numbers, and we are definitely beyond a shadow of a doubt on a downswing. If we're realistic, these numbers are still absolutely healthy, so do not let a bar graph confuse you or get you worried. I'm not worried about Final Fantasy XIV closing or server shutdowns at all. But breaking down the numbers, blue is the number of characters with the first recorded achievement in that time period, green is the number of characters with no confirmed achievements after that time period, and then red is the number of characters whose achievements were confirmed during that time period. Ultimately, we can see red for the 2023 Q1 dip significantly below earlier values. I'm not trusting the last data point after that because it looks like some kind of error happened, but we can see a clear significant drop off in players at a much steeper slope than Heavensward or Stormblood. To reiterate, this does not mean in any way that the sky is falling down or that we need to be in a state of panic, but it does confirm what I myself have been saying for the past little while. Like 6 months ago, I said that Final Fantasy XIV is in a bad state. In fact, I'd argue in terms of content that can engage and retain players, it may be in the worst state it's ever been in. Now, before you come at me telling me how I'm wrong for saying that, we know that the launch of the next expansion, Dawntrail, is in summer of next year. That has been stated by the developers very clearly, meaning that we have roughly a year to go in with what we have right now today. Okay, yes, we'll get 6.5. We know that there's going to be some content added there, but that's it. That's like basically it. Like that's all, folks. There's not like a patch 6.6 and then 6.7 in there. I don't know about you, but to me particularly, that is a pretty big concern after seeing these numbers, unless there is going to be a, say, surprise mass revival through Final Fantasy XIV going viral again. We may very well be in for a rough next 8 or possibly even more months ahead of us. Before people think that I'm trying to dunk on a game that I really love with developers that I love, even if they have no idea I even exist, or like hate on Final Fantasy XIV because apparently that's popular, I've been raising my concerns for like months, like half a year ago, and I've said that things are in a concerning state. Like finally, other people are starting to say the same thing that I've been feeling. Frankly, when I saw people talking, I went, oh, thank God, I'm not alone. I see it in my friends lists. I see it in the number of people active in my link shells or my free company, or simply people that I know that raid, that used to do so much more than just raid log, now just are raid logging. And even many of them have quit because they either quit after clearing top or DSR, which, oh boy, let's not go down that rabbit hole of the pacing of ultimate content and savage content this expansion, burning people out hard. Rest assured, that's a topic that I do not feel has had the book closed yet. I don't think it should be closed. But we lost many extremely dedicated players. Like, you don't clear DSR, Dragon Song's Replies Ultimate, and then go into the Omega Protocol Ultimate and then not absolutely love this game. They got burnt, though. Like, really bad. And I can say I've keenly felt it in game. Like the Canary in the Coal Mine, something is wrong. Something is very different this expansion versus what we're used to with the normal drop-off. Like, we have had a little bit of drop-off every single expansion, factual, but never to the level that I've been noticing it for the past little while. I did a video recently talking about reward structures in game, and I won't go into much detail, I'll just summarize it here. There are so many pieces of content that have been added, like Blue Mage up to level 80 cap or Criterion Dungeons, which are missing major incentive drivers to get those players, well, to drive the players into the content. Instead, however, we're seeing a lot of awesome stuff being put directly into the cash shop. Shadowkeeper, for instance, would have been an intensely awesome, badass reward to get people to clear the Shadowbringers Eden raid tier on Blue Mage. Now, let's take steps past that video. There's the summary. Sometimes incentives are useful to get people to just try things that they wouldn't otherwise. Take Baldesion's Arsenal. That is a piece of content with a very loyal, dedicated following that is still to this day active. Baldesion's Arsenal is like 5 years old now, yet it is inarguably, without a doubt, not even questionably, more popular than Criterion Dungeons by leaps and bounds, I'll put it that way. Many players would never have honestly tried it and went into Baldestin's Arsenal if it wasn't for the reward structure to get them into the door, and then they were like, oh wow, I love this, let's do more. They were hooked. But incentives matter, and types of incentives offered matters. I do risk going against some of my friends, they know I love them, but I'm not convinced item level is enough to incentivize players, which has been recommended by some. Why? Because, as some have noted, I haven't even touched the Savage tier, nor have many others. I'm personally in the category where I don't personally give a flying fuck about my item level at this point. My attention is on clearing ultimates. I will speak on that later, but Savage and getting best in slot right now isn't at it with me. I just don't care. Now, a valid question is asking why. Because in the current state of the game, item level in best in slot is kind of worthless outside of a few niche scenarios, such as, say, you want to farm Criterion dungeons faster. Which, if you winced and asked, what? When I said that, yeah, unfortunately that's exactly my point. I personally can point to nearly 100 raiders that I've known or been close friends with, many of which did clear DSR, or rather plenty did both DSR and the Mega Protocol, or are working on the Mega Protocol still, who look at the Savage tier and the gear and the item level and just wonder, what's the point of this item level? Bunch did it, but the motivation was far from item level. They're like, why would I want item level? Is there another ultimate? No, there's not. Okay, so I don't care. And that's kind of their perspective. Lots just didn't do the tier, with no ultimate raids being left for them to prog or prepare for a bunch, just kind of let it go. Realistically, 7.1 will be the next ultimate in, say, what, 12 months? That might even be too optimistic to say, so people don't hold it to me. I don't know if September of 2024 will have a new ultimate raid. So, item level, I'm not convinced it's a great reward. Maybe some, if they're really hooked onto that treadmill and they're like, oh yeah, I need best in slot. Then you kind of ask the question like, what are you going to best in slot for? Oh, so because I just want best in slot. And it's like, eh. But you know what? For some people that works. If you're into that, totally do it. Do not let anyone, including myself, ever tell you not to. If you like that and that's what makes you happy, totally go for it. I 1000% support you if that's the case. Another concern of mine is content longevity. We have beautiful content introduced like Variant Dungeons or Island Sanctuary, truly, genuinely, breathtakingly beautiful and clearly, attentively, lovingly developed content, but when we do look at Variant Dungeons, people run them a few times for the mount and then that's it. It's done. And that's a painful shame. Like seeing something that like that genuinely feels bad to me because it's just beautiful content, but people just don't have any reason to do it. Or Island Sanctuary, which I retain, I think is a great addition to the game. Outdoor furnishings can be placed for everyone. That's a huge game changer. But if we look at Island Sanctuary activity itself, it's largely become a spreadsheet simulator. Like you enter into the project management tool and that's kind of it. And I do say that the customizations and outdoor furnishings are marvelous and sorely needed in our continuing Final Fantasy XIV housing crisis. So we at least give players the options for apartment for indoor items, Island Sanctuary now for outdoor. I'll never say Island Sanctuary is without merit. Also, the rewards for doing Island Sanctuary, let's back it up for a second. Those rewards are 100% worth it. That's why I was pointing at Blue Mage and Criterion at the lack of rewards, because I really do think Island Sanctuary rewards with the motorcycle, alligator mount, the glamours, and the rest is totally worth it. And yes, obviously I also do enjoy catching the Pokemon. That aspect of Island Sanctuary I most certainly do enjoy. But the gameplay loop and the project management spreadsheet copy pasting is a little less exciting than one could have hoped for. Lastly, no, I'm not done with talking about the Relic. And I love you guys even if we disagree, and I really do mean that. I think disagreement is healthy, I really do. Just because you disagree with someone does not mean that you hate them. Where have we lost this? If you disagree, it doesn't mean you hate them. But there's no way that you can tell me and convince me that we needed a second tombstone weapon, that this is actually a solid alternative to Relic questline. Because that's what we really do have with Endwalker's supposed Relic. Really is a very far from best in slot, worse than standard mainline tombstone weapon. I see it at this point as not even being a Relic grind. Like, I don't. I feel like this is a tombstone dump that in and of itself could be great and could be awesome in parallel to an actual Relic as an alternative to people who just want to lazily farm out some piece of, like, cool looking glamour. I don't want to bloat this video, but that's a significant gameplay loop completely lifted and tossed into the garbage from the game. That's not to mention the pain felt with no exploration zones, which exploration zones spans what, like the last 5 years of content between Stormblood and Shadowbringers expansions. And if you look at Stormblood and Shadowbringers expansion numbers just from that same Lucky Bancho census, they were pretty healthy. They were grown. It was clearly a good thing, or at least a part of a really good thing. And Bozja and Eureka was extremely rewarding novel content. It broke the mold, it provided warps in the rules of the fabrics of the game, and had a ton of different forms of battle content that were significantly more bitey than our supposed expert roulette, while still being extremely accessible and not needing you to schedule them into your calendar, because at this point most people are so freaking sick of scheduling stuff into their calendar. I don't know about you guys, but my gosh, I don't like scheduling much into my calendar, unless it's going to be an Epic of Alexander group, in which case I will probably most definitely be good scheduling that into my calendar. But aside from that, I think Bozja was definitely a step above Eureka. I love Baldessian's Arsenal, but I also think Delirium Regane was awesome. I think the Lost Actions in Bozja was a fantastic system of improvement over Eureka's actions. Maybe make the actions free. I don't really think that, I'm getting too deep. I just think critical engagements, the 1v1 me bros, I think all that content going into Castrum Lacus Latori, I think all of that was beautiful content. But now that's gone, with no real replacement right now. So to recap and put a stamp on it, fundamentally we have an incentive problem for amazing content. Most of the amazing content has a longevity problem to boot. We've also seen massive chunks of the game's mid-core, more casual content lifted. I'm going to be very direct with you guys. It is hard at this point to point at, oh hey, this is what a casual player in Final Fantasy XIV can do in Endwalker. Do expert roulette to grind tomes to get better gear, to do expert roulette a little faster, even though we all know that the hunt train is better for tombstone farming. Why don't I hear other creators talk about the hunt train? I don't know, but it is better than expert for tombstone farming, so it's kind of all moot. Which, saying all this in this video brings me no joy. It really is kind of deflating to say any of this. Don't get me wrong, I've had to do multiple recordings. I'm like, wow, you sound really depressed in that recording. Let's do another. I love Final Fantasy XIV and its developers, even if they have no idea who I am and I'm just a no-name nobody who is that crappy third-rate content creator from a country that's just the USA's hat. What the fuck's wrong with them putting a leaf on their fucking flag? Regardless of any of that, I love this game and its devs. Don't care if it's one way, I love them. But yeah, I have been concerned for a while, and seeing these numbers finally inspired me to speak up, even though I just want to zip my lips, keep just grinding ultimates. That has been my focus. We'll talk about that in a different video. But frankly guys, the Canary in the Coal Mine told us something was up, and now, with the Lucky Bancho numbers, it's kind of improving. And I think that's actually a crying, horrible, awful shame.